The hip-hop writer is a creator, composing understanding words of cultured brilliance, powering a rebalance of the elements equally, pages of rejuvenated reaffirmation, simply the almighty leadership of insightful craftwork that stands to build through any confrontation, born to be. Yet his daily duty is as a journalist that questions properly and uses his ears to filter the real. And as the art decays by dilution, he concentrates the best again and again, exposing it in the print. Today's journalist and tomorrow's historian, he listens to share. Here is that necessary attempt executed again and again and again. This is the Power Right Show on S.STREET Media. This is your brother, the lone low life with the home-sewn garment, the Boricua with the build, the true and living God stepping in score, Sunni as Allah, a.k.a. Skillustrator Low, and we're on S.STREET Media, the evolution of media, where every intrigue will have its own show, every incredible thought will have its own episode, and every timeless insight will be archived. And as I always say, this is about my element of hip-hop, the writer of art on art and science on music, I like to call it. The only show in history on this hip-hop writer element that I, a veteran of over a quarter century, helped pioneer. Pioneer by writing good shit, hating on lots of bad shit, getting exiled from lots of magazines, you know, burning lots of bridges, though. You know what I mean? I was like a Godzilla and shit. Nobody burned as many bridges as me. But, hating on artists, though, and then you look at the magazine you're at, though, and it's the next page, 10-page advertisement. You know what I mean? You're like, oh, shit. But much love, always in my intro. It's called I Call My Brother's Son by Kevlar 7, though. My brother, Kevlar 7, remembered in perfection. One of the legends, the brother of Bronze Nazareth, one of the greatest producers, MCs I ever heard in my life, and one of the greatest ears for music. Some of the greatest MCs I've been able to write about are because of him. And I guess in this day and time, I guess Rim. If you just go through Rim's favorite MCs, you get all the good ones, though. Like we'll show you today with our guest today, right? Rim just be having all the great guys. Yeah. But
definitely. Shout out my brother.
Before we get into our guest and start building with him on his great works and the massive potential that he's holding right now, you guys got a lot of money to spend with me. You know what I mean? So use every last bit of it on me and my guest. My book out now is The Real of 2020. It's an ebook. It is only $5 and up. So it's $5 plus love that you give. It is a complete 70-page analysis of the best musicians and artists in hip-hop music today, bracketed in a revolutionary new system of ciphers that categorize the entire music universe. That means that I just didn't go, these are my favorite records, though, because nobody gives a shit about my favorite records. What I did was, I put everything that was worthwhile, the great, the supreme, the good, everything that is qualitative in the genre of that year, and kind of set up a whole universe for you. Broke it down in different brackets, and they intertwine, they interlope. Some belong in different brackets, some belong in multiple brackets, and it gives you an idea of what this whole cipher looks in hip-hop, of what we're dealing with today, how massive it is, how incredible it is, and how ever-growing it is. And that's out now. The book I have on paperback is The Filtered Real, Essays from the Invisible Renaissance, because I call this era the Invisible Renaissance. We just got through the Dark Ages, and now we're among great music, great artists. They're under their own command, you know, musically and monetarily. And I call it the Invisible Renaissance because you don't know shit about it, and I'm the one telling it to you. And that's a fact, though. You're not going to find any book about this, though. You're going to find people talking shit about what they like, you know, who they know and who they had an interview with, though. And then they put Little Baby in there and have a feature about him and fuck it all up. I'm talking about the best music now, all right? Not the guys that do jingles, right? Not the guys that are going to be tomorrow's Swiffer commercial, okay? And before we get into our guest, though, after you've given all your money, though, and you have nothing left, I have to hold you down. I got another show I do with my brother DJ Toshi. It's his show called DJ Toshi's Classic Storm Radio. With a lot of arrogance, I say it's the Gangstar of podcast, because you're not going to find a better host, better ideas, better interviews, and better music altogether. You know what I mean? Our last show, episode 291, we had Raph Almighty of Dirt Platoon on his new solo records. came all the way from Baltimore and stuff like that. You know what I mean? So if you're all goo goo gaga about The Wire, though, let's listen to my bill with somebody who's really from there. You know what I mean? We used to play ball right in the backyard right there. You know what I mean? Right where Bodie was spitting. You know what I mean? And we also had a call-in again, though, with Marcano of The Leftovers, a.k.a. Prince Power Rule. We had a great build, me and Marcano, though, of The Leftovers, the group that we're part of, the group that he is leading, the anti-gentrification group. And we had a little bit more to add on about it all on the show. So check out Classic Storm Radio. Go to DJ Toshi Classic Storm, Podomatic.com, and download that. Delete some bullshit you have and keep that. You know what I mean? Our last episode was about the Dark Ages, Volume 3 build, because this is a book I'm working on. Right? It has over 600 pages, so I got to chop it up, though. I'm trying to take out some of the hatred, the pure hatred that I have. You know what I mean? Because it was the Dark Ages for me, too. You know what I mean? But really give you some insights on the music and everything and how it leads up to today. You know what I mean? Because everybody, I hate when people hear bad music that they supported bullshit music and they go, oh, how did it get like this, though? But you look through their collection and they have all the bullshit from the 2000s that we was telling you, don't buy that. It's going to get worse if you buy that. You know what I mean? They have the first fucking ringtone singles and shit like that, but they're big and mad about the shit now. You know what I mean? Ain't that a bitch?
This is what
was
marketed to me.
Absolutely. But, my guest today, I don't see too often, when I like to use the word boom bap, because I like that. KRS-One made that up, though, and you don't get to sell that out. You don't get to ruin that. The music with its purity, with a great mix of innovation. You know what I mean? And the thing about this artist that I'm going to build with today is that he doesn't have a lot of work. He hasn't flooded us with 1,000 albums, though, and now he has nothing to talk about. You know what I mean? He's not making commercial records, though, because he made a whole bunch of underground ones. So if you like that real stuff, go back to the old stuff. That's what they say, after they blow up, right? If you like my old stuff, go back to the old stuff. And here, I'm doing the bullshit now. But in such a small catalog, compared to so many people flooding the market, good and bad, I very rarely hear such an elevation of skill level, just increasing by large barometers to me. And I don't think that most listeners will hear it. And that's why I wanted to build with him, because it's a lot of appreciation, a lot of education on this edutainment. You know what I mean? And I got 3 EPs from him. 3, EPs. Maybe I call the second one an album. You know what I mean? He calls it an album, though. You know what I mean? It's not enough for me. I call it an EP. But those 3 works, and each one is, for me, the way I listen to it, is astronomically greater than the one prior. And that kind of increase in skill level is very rare. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Plex Diamonds in the building. Peace, Plex.
Appreciate the words. I appreciate the words.
No doubt.
That's fine.
You know what I mean? I want to start off, with your origins, Plex Diamonds. You know what I mean? Where you're from in Brooklyn. What got you into hip hop particularly? You know what I mean? And some of the stuff we were talking about on air, we'll get into that. You know what I mean? And also how you got your name, Plex Diamonds, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. I'll start off by saying I'm from Flatbush, Brooklyn. I was born and raised there. Kings County, all that. And I'd say the first time I got introduced into music, it kind of going back to like what we were talking about a little bit off the air. Well, right before I got introduced to like seeing DMX on like TV and stuff, this is like now I'm talking about like I'm probably like 8, 9 years old. Right before that, I used to listen to a lot of music by my uncle's house. He had like the Life After Death cassette. He had a bunch of stuff. But at that time, like I would probably only listen to like Life After Death. So that was like the start. And then when I finally got to see a visual, first visuals I saw was DMX and Big Pun. I don't want to be a player no more. So yeah, that's kind of like, that was like my visual introduction into it, you know? And when it came down to music, I just used to listen to rap music a lot, like a lot. And I used to like talk to my brother about it, my older brother, about like, you know, breaking down lyrics, what they meant. At the time, I didn't really know what metaphors, like how to break down metaphors. So my brother would always have that one up on me.
Right.
But that ended up like eventually leading to him coming home one day with like one of those J Arms mixtapes with all the beats on there, and then we ended up like both like
took me back,
yeah, like ciphering on that, and then like from there he kind of like pushed me a little bit, like, yo, you might have something going on there, you know what I mean? And at the time I was only like 12 years old, so
what is it he said you had, or what is, if he didn't, what is it you think you had?
I think what he just saw was like stage presence for me. Because like as a kid growing up, that's like all I used to do. I used to be like a class clown for my own family. Like I would be the one like reciting Scarface lines at like my communion.
Yeah, that's a good place for it, right?
Yeah, like just random shit, like, you know, cause I'm big on movies too. So like I was a movie buff since a kid. So I used to be big into all that stuff, like impersonating. So I guess like that, I used to have like a deep voice when I was younger, so I think those were the things he noticed and was like, maybe there's something there. And I ended up like recording my first song, like recording a song when I was 12. And, you know, from there, it kind of went like different ways. I wouldn't say it went well the first time, because the first song I recorded was like horrible. It was horrible, man. And then everybody was clowning me too. It was like, you think you could rap? Oh, it was bad, man. It was bad.
What made you not quit? Because some people I've talked to that become producers, you know, and they don't rap anymore. They've had that experience and then you just quit. You know what I mean?
I think for me, I felt more passionate than everybody that was telling me like, oh, you can't rap or this. I couldn't take them serious because I knew I was more passionate about music and what was going on than them. So even if I didn't have the skill they was hoping for right away, I knew what the potential was and where to go from it. Because I don't know, I felt like I always had like a creative mind, like an artistic mind. I always like saw like a little ahead, and I think that's why at one point like I really liked Kanye, because if you listen to the last song on College Dropout, when he's talking about last call, I think that was very important for him to make like an audio, give you like a visual through audio of like his rise to success. Even if it was a small bit of it, that little journey was like important to me growing up, because that's how I always felt. Like people don't see that. Like people don't see how hard it takes for you to, you know, get better and be nice. Because like later on, mind you, this is like me 12. By the time I get to like my first year of high school, I'm battling people like 3 years older than me in my school. So then I end up becoming somebody that's like known for rapping, and they're like, yo, he's nice and stuff. But only like a few years ago I was like horrible, you know. And even then, like, it's crazy to me, because when I think about like those times where I was like bad rapper, I'm like, I wasn't even nice like that. Like I was saying childish stuff, like, because I was only seeing what was around me at the time. You gotta kind of like get yourself out of where you're already trapped in to notice there's more going on. And I was just responding to my surroundings, which made me a little bit better. But where I'm at now, I could see like real growth.
So you started to study, you know, the music a little bit deeper, different artists, right? A little deeper and stuff.
I wouldn't say I did that till after high school, because high school was, I really kind of got caught up with like battle rapping for a little bit, like just battling kids in school and stuff. And I was still making songs, but I wasn't fully there yet. After, I would say like my junior year, that's when I first started working on like my first real project. So I started doing that, and then later on, that's after I like finished making that. That's when I started like studying a bunch of like different stuff. You know, it's interesting because it's funny you mentioned that with like the growth between the 3 tapes, because that's kind of how I feel about it. It was like those 3 points. It's like I went somewhere else, and that allowed me to create what I offered at that time. You know what I mean? So,
indeed. You know, when do you start recording? Right, we know these albums that they're just a couple of years old. The earliest that is like what 019.
Yeah.
So when do you start recording seriously and trying to get to the point where that first record is going to be, your debut?
The first one is 2020. Sorry about that. I was thinking of some work I had on SoundCloud before.
Okay.
But 2020 is when I actually first like released music like for sale. Before, I just used to make music in my neighborhood, and like I would get other places like people in Soho. I would connect with them, and
right.
people in different areas of Brooklyn, whether it was Bed-Stuy or different areas of Flatbush, Canarsie. But I never really put my music on like a larger scale, like on streaming devices or anything of that nature. I was always, if you ask anybody that knows me, I was always like a hoarder of my music. Like I'd just keep it in a vault, and people will always be like, yo, when you gonna drop music? Like, we know you've been rapping forever. And it's just like, it's not ready yet. I always tell them that, like, I'm not ready yet, or I'm still working on it. I got something coming. And I was really serious about that. And finally, when I dropped Gotham City, that was like the beginning of me showing people what I meant by that. Like, people that would ask me that all the time, like, yo, when you gonna release something?
Right.
Because not even to cut you off, I just found a different level of seriousness once I got to this point to make sure my vision was fully seen through all the way, So as far as like production, mixing and mastering, skits for it, just concepts behind it. Even though like with my first release, Gotham City, I still try to make it loose. I didn't try to get too in depth with anything, just because it was my first offering. For me, I remember hearing First Comes Anarchy first. And
for me, that was the first record I heard from you.
So that came out right after Gotham City, and that was like something I gave away sparingly. It was, what I would say is like,
because if you go to his band, Plex Diamond's Bandcamp, though, it's not there. So haha, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You got like a Plex crate already.
It's like a little quick strike. People ask me about it. Like, people ask me to like if I could send it to them or if I'm ever releasing it again. And it was actually supposed to be part of like a 3-part series that I had going, but I made it like it was kind of like a self-destructive EP at the same time, because it was just to give them a glimpse of what was happening right after Gotham City, but I wasn't really trying to make that a thing where it's like, all right, this is what I'm pushing. This is like kind of like Gotham City B-sides right after I finished.
Well, it's
Gotham
interesting
City.
because First Comes Anarchy has more of the experimental flows in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The chops and all of that, you know what I mean?
It's more towards the end of Gotham City. So, like, I already got the gist of what I was trying to create or what I came across. Because even Gotham City was kind of, like, experimental in a different way, where it was just, I was going about, like, recording and just building on the album, like, different ways. I was just letting it come together, and that was the tape that came together. So, Gotham City is kind of, in a way, metaphorically, like me getting myself to this point and what I had to go through for that. So the many features on it is just a testament to how hard it was for me to just get off a song. Even though these are all my comrades on the song, it's just to show you that the skill level needed and the competition at hand at all times is real. So that's where you get Gotham City. Like, yo, there's more villains than heroes that you hear about in Gotham City,
Well, let me ask you about that, right? Because, I was talking off air before you had come, and got here to the studio. I was talking to my producer about you, and I was talking about all, all of the MCs that you're rhyming with are extremely seasoned.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they got a lot of work, and people know them, you know? And
Yeah.
it's, I just find like the way, you know, I always find it intriguing the way Twitter works, though, and the way it just hides certain people and it doesn't. You know, the algorithms ain't shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, you know, Rim's at the lead of this. You know, the Walkers, always talk about the Walkers crew, you know, Rome Streets.
Yeah, that's my guy, man.
Eddie
Bad Influence
Kane,
family.
Bub Rock.
Yeah,
The
Bub is
producers,
man.
the standouts, Wavy to
my
God,
gosh.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is a massive chunk of Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And the quality of
talent.
Brooklyn, you know what I mean? And it reminds me of a lot like, it really does remind me a lot like 90s Brooklyn, you know what I mean? Where, except when artists like J. Rue or Biggie and all of them knew each other, you all are actually doing work together and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
and that's the thing. In the catalogs, in looking at the catalogs, you're supposed to be a rookie.
Yeah.
And your songs are seasoned. They have insights. They have ideas, especially the new one we're going to talk about in depth.
Appreciate it.
You know what I mean?
Appreciate
And I wanted to juxtapose it, kind of like get you to build on the mentality that you have with them. Because you tweeted something that I thought really goes to that. And you said, as an artist, it is your duty to display more than raps over a soundscape. Unless your end goal is to only be considered as a lyricist. For me, this is only the beginning of what I have to offer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I found that tweet funny, though. You know what I mean? Because it was kind of like, half of the MCs out there would like to be just considered at least a lyricist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're gunning for something else. What is it?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because like with the tape that I gave, like Justice is Gray, that was in reference to that. And I always tell my guys this. I say like when I dropped Gotham City, that was like me starting over. It was like me like breaking myself apart and starting from the like scratch, rubble of like song building, verse making, all of that all over again. I felt like I went back to basics because like if you notice from the time I started seeing DMX to like 10 years later, 15 years later, music changed drastically, like dramatically. And some of it was good, some of it wasn't. There's a lot of elements that we could take from that could still create good music that represents the golden era of what we love so much, you know, which is hip hop, you know. And I think that me being like a person who grew up in that whole like generation and times changing, I have a good eye and ear for what that could possibly be. I have the perspective to give people good music that will culminate everything you've probably heard or experienced in the past 15 or 20 years. And I feel that's important because I don't want to take away from people's artistry just because they're not maybe a lyricist or they're not a song maker, you know. Maybe they're stronger lyricist or song maker, but the way I look at it is like those worlds were together at one point when hip hop was actually at the forefront making successful careers out of a lot of artists, you know. And that's what I feel like is missing. Like to a certain degree, like hip hop has always been just as good, but I feel like people cancel out the fact that there's good songs still in hip hop. It's just, it's hip hop. He's nice at rapping. He got a few cool bars, but can he make a song? But then it's like at the same time we've been almost conditioned to think what a good song is now, that we wouldn't even know how to experience a good time with an artist if we actually came across one.
Right. Like if we experience good times with song making, like actual songs.
Yeah, you would, because every song damn near sounds the same. We were talking about earlier, carbon copies. So, every time somebody makes even a decent song, they're like a unicorn.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
They're a unicorn. And I feel like right now, like, I love the fact that it's called the Renaissance. Because I feel like everybody in this era has had a little taste of all of that, seeing the different rise and falls of different regions and their sound of music, understanding the importance that reflects on the culture of that, and being able to give it back in an insightful and, how can I say, refreshing way. Because that's what we need, man.
Right. And I definitely appreciate you calling it the Renaissance, though. As my producer knows, though, something that I penned back in 2012. But what's interesting, right? And when we think about this off air, I was saying this, and I wanted to throw this at you, right? You grew up in what I call in the 2000s. This is when you were becoming an artist, deciding like I want to be an artist, and your youth. Yeah. These are usually the records that are most impressionable, and so many of the MCs your age and and two things. I'm gonna say two things for the listener. It's two things: MCs his age and with skill and talent, because the talentless will do something else.
Yeah.
But you have not chosen to work off the soundscape of that era that you grew up in.
Yeah.
It's more harkens to really a revival and really innovating off of the boom bap. Because I don't want to say like, oh, it sounds like 90s boom bap, because it really doesn't either. And a lot of people don't have good ears. Today's music, today's best music usually is not sounding like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even from producers back then, like the stuff that Muggs gives Rome Streets and other guys would totally be, what the fuck is he doing though? If he gave it back in the 90s, they would be like, what is he doing? This is crazy. You know what I mean? Tempos is different. Yeah. Cadence is different. The what's expected out of that music.
That's the evolution right there.
So as you develop your sound, what was the sound that you said you had to have? Because it's distinct here. And unlike a lot of MCs, though, you're spoiled, though. All the Brooklyn guys are spoiled because you happen to be around such great producers, though, which is very rare. It really is that you could say, hey, standouts, give me a track. Hey, Wavy, what do you got? Like, man, that's not really fair. You know what I mean?
I got great producers around me. I got great rapper friends around me that are just like my friends in real life. I got people that are involved in like this music industry and like always drop a gem on me. So I'm like very fortunate, very spoiled. And I think Bub said it best. He was talking to my boy Low one day from the desk of Low, and said something like, yo, Plex got so many resources, he just never want to use them, man.
Oh, he put you out there like that?
I mean, like, I love my crew to death, but they know I'm like the hard-headed one out the bunch, man. And that's just me being young, man. I'm like a mixture of like the young and the old at the same time. Because at the same time, I am 28 turning 29, so 30 is knocking on the door right now. I don't really consider myself like young, but, being able to have peers, as fortunate as I am, like, it lets me actually realize that I'm still growing and still maturing,
And in that cypher, you sound so much different than everybody else, you know what I mean? No one sounds obviously like Rim.
Yeah.
Bub Rock and Eddie Kane sound totally different just because they two tall black brothers from Brooklyn. They don't sound the same.
Well, Bub is from Long Island. Bub is from Long
Island. Right.
Bub and Spoda is from Long Island. Can't forget Spoda. That's my guy.
Spoda, that's right.
Yeah, that's my guy. Yeah, that's another. That's another animal.
And he's an example too, because every next record right now, all of yous are entering a prime. It's like every next record is better.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like every current record of Spoda is my favorite. The last Bub Rock is my favorite. The last Kane with Wavy is my favorite. You know what I mean? It's really the best one if we was get technical. You know what I mean?
And I think that's the outlook, like, just putting your best foot forward and always trying to outdo what you did last time. It's only supposed to go up from here, You got to have forward thinking, and it's not like I plan it that way, but I always intend to get better. And once I find that groove, I come into that, like, I see that come into fruition. I see
Well,
that
this is
realization.
something that I'm gonna have to start asking them when they come back for more interviews and get my first with Bub. But and of course bother him about it. Are you guys gonna make like a collective album of some sort?
We got a lot of,
Because when you collect all the individuals that are associated, even if we call it a loose affiliation, the Walkers of just brotherhood, that's a strong crew. That rivals anything that we've seen come together in this beginning of this decade.
Yeah, we definitely a strong collective. We all try to support each other with the plans we got going at the moment, and we work on a lot of music that doesn't reach releases just yet. We've been working on a lot of stuff, and I can't make no early announcements, but you could definitely look forward to hearing more music from us together.
Right, yeah. I'm just throwing that out there to put the pressure, though. Just to put the pressure. You don't have to give me an exclusive.
I can imagine, man.
But
I can imagine.
In your themes, because for me, Plex, I don't look and go, when I listen to your music, I don't go, oh man, we need more and shit like that, or it's not enough, because I find a lot of concentration. You know what I mean? And me as a writer, I love to write concentrated though. I like to give you that gloop of orange. The orange when you had to get the orange drink and you had to water it down. That gloop. You know what I mean? You know what I'm talking about? Like And,
you want the compound.
Yeah, and that's how I listen to your works, because there's a lot going on in there. But before we even get in there, I want to talk about the themes you use. You know what I mean? The Batman themes, the Joker themes, and the whole Gotham City, the Gotham City Boys. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Tell me about all that.
Well, like I was saying earlier, with the whole villain thing. So that came about one day where, when I was a kid, like, I'm not even going to lie, when I was a kid, I looked up to Batman. Like, and it's only right. They had like 3 different cartoon shows and like 1 million movies at the time. At the time, I was like 7 years old, So I had more than enough to do with VCRs
the
and all
animated
that
series
stuff at that time.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. Dragon Ball Z and all that crazy stuff at the time. But what led me to even thinking about like Batman and Gotham City and things of that nature is one day I always talk to my friend about the Dark Knight movie, and we always have this conversation about like Joker and like his ideologies. So one day, like, it came across to me that I'm not really Batman. I more understand what Joker is saying more than Batman at times. Sometimes Batman plays the role of the government and the oppressor without us even noticing it right on screen for us to see. And the Joker will be talking from the stance of a civilian, somebody that's going through poverty or going through the struggles of the system and the corruption behind that, and just actually having a chance for freedom of speech. So then once that plot kind of opened up, that's where like I felt even more connected to that, where it was like, oh man, like this whole time I was looking at the Joker strange, and this guy might be me all along, Not to go sounding too crazy, but then in itself, going further as I started making this tape, because that's when I was just like, I would tell myself, I'd be like, man, I'm the Dark Prince, man. I'm the Dark Prince. Like, I'll just say that. Like, I said it to Rome one time. He was like, you sure about that, man? I'm like, I'm super sure. You know what I mean? Like, I'm telling you, man, we villains, man. So then after that, like, just building with my guys, I started seeing it that like sometimes we're labeled the bad guy, but really we're speaking from the perspective that everybody is scared to address.
You know what's interesting, right? I'm just going to think, because when I got older, Superman is easily seen as a total sellout, though. I mean, he's carrying the American flag, he's flying for the, he's just
Captain
a total sellout, you know what I mean? Yeah, he does whatever
soldier.
the president tells him to do, you know what I mean?
Not to be sounding like a conspiracy.
What's interesting is this, right? And I'm just throwing this out because you're seeing it a lot deeper.
Yeah.
what's interesting is that the culture that Batman has made for himself is supposed to challenge. And yet, because he has so much ethics of morality, it actually ends up supporting the status quo. Because he won't do certain things.
Yeah.
He won't take his ethos and bring it to a reality. So,
Even
it's
though he'll
interesting
step
you mention
into
that.
darkness every night.
Mm-hmm.
He won't actually reflect the darkness as is, only to intimidate. But it's nothing that he actually wants to personify. And a person like Joker has no problem with that, because most people are going to find a lot of things as taboo and strange and odd. You know, most of the time people hate what they don't understand.
Mm-hmm. And I think it was on the First Comes Anarchy, you sampled the Joker. I forget which. I think that's the recent Joker movie, right? Did you? Where he was talking about, anarchy itself. You know what I mean?
Okay, I think that one might have been on Gotham, and I'm trying to remember which song that is. But I remember exactly what he's talking about.
Yeah, because it was really like one of the most insightful quotes from the movie.
Yeah, but that actually is what kind of like kicked off me even making it First Comes Anarchy.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was referring
because
back
then it leads
to that conversation.
Quote. Right, yeah.
That's exactly where that whole thing came from. It was like First Comes Anarchy, and basically it was just to go off of that conversation he had with Harvey Dent. That's where that conversation, and he's basically telling Harvey, like, yeah, you could still be Gotham's White Knight, or you could face the facts as it is. We live in a corrupted system. Mm-hmm. How do you want to handle justice? How do you want to see justice served, basically? Which is always a tricky subject. People are going to have their own views on it, but I like to create that conversation.
Well, this kind of contradiction in reality, embracing the contradiction, not becoming a hypocrite. You know what I mean? This is something that's in the music, and a lot of your brothers, though, would come up in poverty, living a street life, having to do illegal things to survive, to thrive, not really knowing when do you quit it, because when can you? When do you have enough money to survive? You really don't. So when do you stop doing crime? You know what I mean? That is the only thing that is paying you. And these are things that actually come into play on a lot of the songs that you have. So it's almost like you're trying to tell us, like, this is not the way, though. But at the same time, though, if you're going to do it, though, you got to be great at it, because then it's going to be really bad. Like, you have all these contradictions playing out in the songs, and they're just really layered. So, like, one verse, like, it seems like sometimes you'll have a chorus that'll say something moralistic. Yeah. And then in the verses, you'll say, listen, but it may not play out that way. So this is what you got to do. You know, and you constantly do that, and it makes it very intriguing. A lot of songs, especially,
appreciate that.
Throughout the Gotham City, and throughout definitely Justice is Great, because that's the whole point. Justice is great.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, which is, they're all like continuations of Gotham City. Like, I'm trying to get myself I'm spreading it out further, so I'm trying to get us from like comics to real life, but I had to start with the comics first, just to give the colorful inside of myself, almost, in a way, as I could say, like, to show more of what I'm thinking on the inside. That's why I gave the artwork the way I did, because a lot of the tales that I'm gonna be talking about is dealing on the street, so you're getting realistic views. But at the same time, I still want to show you where my mind is going, because I don't want to just stay here, So, like, first song on Gotham City, it's called Dark Prince. And it's actually a tale of me, like, it's like a verse where I'm playing the present and the past, almost. So I'm thinking about my past inner dealings and my present inner dealings, and how they're similar, but they're not the same, but they feel similar. But it's not even, either one isn't where I wanted to be, because all I wanted to do was make music at the end of the day, which leads me into Gotham City. And then now that's where you see my guy Ace You know what I mean? He's on a couple tracks. Then you run in the pub. You run
and then
in
the sequencing is crucial, because then you're like adding the members, join the commission.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's like, all right, if you're going to make this decision to do music and rap, you got to understand that there's people already here that's holding it down a certain way. So you can't make them look bad because you're representation of that too. So if you're even going to get a chance to, you know what I mean, get a 16 off, you better be able to get one in with these guys. So, you know what I mean? Luckily, I made it out alive, you know?
Yeah, I'd say you made it more than alive. Well, I mentioned earlier my Reel of 2020 book, and this is what I wrote about, some of what I wrote about Gotham City.
Oh, shit.
I said, no one knows Plex yet. Just these short EPs, and you can cliche him, boom bap, street nigga, Medina violence, breakbeat calmness, etc., etc. It's deeper than that. The monotone freight train flow on Gotham City and its piano fingering, word creating, like you're looking at Bad Influence. We treat the blue and whites as bad influence and mad elusive. Still pulling strings like at acoustics. Through Doomsday Clock, or the power bars on verse 1 and the skip time delivery on verse 2 on the beautiful piano lush and drift off percussion on the standouts produced private eye reporters, or the tempo speed shifts on mean streets. Absolute technical excellence with so much fucking heart on the mic here. He may have been recording it 5 doors down from the booth. It's not unexpected when a young talent is surrounded by great MCs, but call them what they've been. Poets from hell. And his technical gifts need no A&R practice demos. And then I said Plex over a full-length player can put him in the echelon of the best MCs today. And I may be wrong about that, because he may have done it, though, with his short EP, Justice is Gray. You know? And I think in all of this, we also have to mention, and the reason I read this now is like, you have a lot of technical skill. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
The monotone flow is strong. You know, you were saying that Pun was one of the first MCs you got into. You have that monotone flow. There's no breaks. Whatever flow you're usually using, it's very deliberate breath breaks. But you don't need a breath break. You know what I mean? So you're doing it for character and the nature of the rhyme. It's not really because I can't finish all that. You know what I mean? Sometimes when brothers ask me to do something, I gotta take a break. You know, I can't do everything I wrote. You're able to perform everything that you wrote and really give it some character. You know, it's really hard. And for those who haven't heard Gotham City, it's like a lot of soul just striking out at you. There's a lot of soul, there's a lot of passion, there's a lot of hunger in there. You know what I mean? Yes. It's just a great record. You know, whether you go slower like on Hard Times, or whether you just do that breathless flow you did on Keep Banging, all the tools are on that Gotham City, and is really why, you know, I was like, I have to build with you, Plex. You know what I mean? And then you just put the, you know, added to it with the Justice is Gray.
Yeah.
But leading into Justice is Gray now, right? And talking about the technical skills, I always like to ask MCs, because sometimes I get some really interesting answers. But and throughout all of the history, I have seen some of the greatest MCs I've ever heard on the mic, with great flows. They never need a breath. It's almost, you know. Yeah. And they smoke 20 packs of cigarettes a day. I don't know how the fuck they're doing it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And, you know, I'm thinking of you, Starvin' B. You know what I mean? I don't know how he does it. You know what I mean? Shazil York. You know, I was like, is this what gives you the bass? You know, the bass in the voice? Is that why you're smoking the cigarettes? But, yeah, you know what I mean? But is there some kind of training that you do, like with these verses? Like when you write them out, do you practice them over time? Or is it one of those things, I heard the beat and I wrote it and I went in there and I'm some...
I would say that it's a mixture too. Sometimes I could get myself in a good groove where I just want to write. I'll just get a surge of beats, or I'll get a surge of energy, and I'll just be writing, like, you know what I mean, new ideas, and then I'll come back to it and stuff. But I think leading up to Justice is Gray, I was really focused on where I was when I started making Gotham City, and understanding that, and starting to like picture where I want to be next. So Justice is Gray is like basically a precursor to where I want to take my music in a way, you know, in a small sense though, you know, because you're not really getting the full picture, but I'm giving little hints of it without spoiling too much of the plot.
You know what's interesting though, and I think this is why your music is so concentrated and probably comes out less songs and very concentrated, because most people, and like, you know, like, for example, S.STREET is a good example because he's a great lyricist.
Oh,
he's dynamic, right?
He's phenomenal. That's my guy right there. Shout out S.STREET.
You know, peace to the God.
Yeah, for real. Peace.
And when he makes his songs, he says, you know, they're just like the vibe, and it doesn't matter what's going on, we're just gonna do it. And you could feel that, right? When he did the song, he does them. It feels like jazz albums. Like, this is what we recorded in this date while we were at the studio.
Yeah.
There's a lot of continuation of thought and theme when it comes to your work, like what's going to be in this particular solo work of Plex Diamonds, you know? Yeah. And I find that intriguing. And I think that's what makes them all play so well together, you know? They, you know, all of these works really play smoothly, whether shuffled or played all in a row. And when you were doing this, like, when you decide that way it's going to go in thought, is that when you start making the songs, or do just some of the songs just happen to work and they might have been done just out of the whim and they fit that project?
Well, I'm not gonna lie, like with these 3 projects that I have released, given that First Comes Anarchy isn't up no more, but we'll still acknowledge it for now, you know, for the sake of this interview.
Yeah, you know, for the crate diggers and those who's gonna sell it for $500 on eBay, you know.
I hope not, man. They ain't got to overcharge like that. It's an honor to be worth that much and value like that, man. But just give it to the people, man. Let them hear good music and let them enjoy, like, having a good time. You can spend that $500 on down payment on rent or something, man. You know, get life together, man. We all trying over here. It's a pandemic. I would say like all 3 albums kind of were created off of experience. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by experience is not like my skill level or anything. It's just what I was going through at the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, I went through a crazy transformative period in my life in the matter of right before, I would say, the pandemic started to like right now. Like, my life did like a complete 180. Like, and it's for the good. It's great things, but the things that I was learning, and I just felt like I matured so much, so I wanted to document that through my music. That was the only way I felt like I could get out what I was feeling at the time, you know? And a lot of that came with, you know, reflecting on my past, things that I went through even before I started working on the tape, you know? So that's where you get songs like Dark Prince and things of that nature, you know? And then I think that one thing that added to that too, I would say, is because, which I forgot to mention, before I started working on Gotham City, I had survived a really bad car accident. I had fractured my neck. So I was actually still recording with like a fractured neck. And like when I got out of that neck brace, like, I don't know, it just put me in a different like perspective of life. Well, I'm just so grateful. So
if we listen to records, it gave you more breath control, like loosen that shit up, like you got definitely did something, man. Vocal cords off of it, like you know why? Because I consider the difference I was talking about. I hear an even tighter, more fluid, breathless flow, if you can imagine it, on Justice is Gray. There's a lot of chopped phrasing on Gotham City Rhymes.
Yeah.
On Justice is Gray, there's a lot of complete sentence flows. And the thing is, though, is that what I mean by that, though, for the listener, what I'm trying to say is that you don't just rhyme bar to bar like the ends. Like the end rhymes and then the end rhymes, you know, baby stuff, you know what I mean? But it's all syllabically orientated, you know what I mean? Like, it's all going together.
While still trying to talk to you like it's a regular conversation.
Right, it doesn't sound pressed, though. It doesn't sound forced either, you know what I mean? And I'm saying, like, that's really hard to do, and that's why, you know, there's such a jazz component of hip hop, because you got to listen to this stuff to really see the depth of what's going on here. And that Flashpoint song, how many lines in there? And some of these lines are lines that you think about. Like, you rewind and then you're like, wait a minute, what is that actually? What is he actually saying there? It sounds good, but I don't know what the fuck it says. Wow, okay. You know, losers still beginners while winners laughing at pawns. A matter of time before you realize the ladder is gone. Then you say, what does he mean by ladder? Like, what's that mean? The ladder that everybody is working up, the ladder that other people put for others. You know, it's really an intriguing thought. You know what I'm saying?
That's when I told him, I was like, stairway to heaven or an escalator to
right.
hell.
I love that wordplay there because it's almost like a really clever way of saying that there's really no support for anyone.
Yeah.
You know? And then you probably have one of the let's keep it. I have a lot of records this year. I probably have like 100 albums already. But there's one of the lines of the year, and you know, you had to quote it yourself. Rim had to quote it. I was kind of mad at Rim though, because you know I want to quote the shit first though, and he's throwing it on the fucking Twitter. But he was like, you know, you said, who gives a fuck? We push white. They selling melanin. Life is like a bicycle spoke. Guess who was pedaling? We open bodies just to be at ease like the Revenant. We don't keep score. We keep scoring so effortless. I mean, that's just, that's artwork right there. You know what I mean? That's artwork.
I appreciate that, man.
You know what I mean? And it's almost, you know, that first line, you know, who gives a fuck? We push white. They selling the melanin. It's something that I was talking about when, you know, I've been teaching in Harlem at a law school in Mecca for over 20 years, you know what I mean? And I'm the original man, but I'm not from Harlem. And then I'm not African American. I'm so-called, you know, Puerto Rican. So I see outside, I see in. It's a lot of, and when you go over there, people always talk about collective economics, but every time you see collective economics in Harlem as an example, because it's really like that everywhere. But, it's really everyone, all of our people out hustling and trying to screw each other. You know, we're selling our trauma, we're selling our, you know, we're selling our coonery, we're selling everything, whatever is going to get the bag, you know what I mean? And it's so funny that, like, you're saying, like, who's to criticize us? Because then when we look at outside of Harlem, what else models are we supposed to have when everybody is selling something that we've done? I just spent a whole show talking about the way DMX, Black Rob, so many artists were manipulated for their blackness. You know, they're manipulated for their blackness. You know, when it goes extreme, they don't tell them to chill. They don't look out for them. They say, hey, look, do that again, though. Whatever's destructive.
They keep us in a consumer stance. They don't want us to, like, actually create and build our own narratives, so they gotta keep feeding that bigger machine that makes you keep buying Jordans every week, makes you keep thinking that, you know what I mean, the only way to hang out with your friend is making sure you got an eighth when you pull up to them and shit, like, you know what I mean? It's just certain things that we've been constantly drilled in our mind as should be our social dynamic, when in other cultures it goes down a whole different way. And you see it because you see how more families come together, more family businesses are operating in different cultures. And, you know, for us as minorities, we have, like, the most trouble with it. We're always, like, the last one showing that. So I think it's just we gotta push harder to change the social dynamics and the narratives of what we agree on, what we like doing, what we enjoy, what we approve. Because it even goes back to, like you said, how we're selling our own trauma to each other. That's the same reason why I changed the cover of Justice is Gray, because originally the cover was very exploitative of what we went through in, like, the 60s and the 50s, just with, like, segregation and things. And it's like, you don't need to be reminded once again that we went through these things. We need to create better narratives to show where we're trying to take it. You know? So that's why, like, I changed the cover to me, but I still kept it black and white. But this one, the picture was real as opposed to a drawing.
Right.
So people could still understand that everything that I showed you, even if you saw the cover before, that still stands. All of that is still real. You know that still exists. But we're going to show each other in a better light. So yeah, that's why you see me in the button up. I'm cleaned up. Yeah, we need to be in a better light, and that's kind of how I ended even Gotham City, a better class of criminal. Let's just move smarter.
Right.
In general, you know.
And taking notice, some song Dark Prince Returns. A lot of people don't notice though, but I've never heard a song. I got to think about it. I don't think I ever heard a song end on a cliffhanger. You know what I mean? Because if you listen, I forget what song it was. I think it's Paid in Full, Rakim. He's the one that invented or really first used cliffhangers, you know, where like the bar would end, but that line is not concluded.
Yeah, you could have filled it in.
Right, you ended the song on a cliffhanger, and it was just the dopest shit, because I'd never heard somebody end it on a cliffhanger like that. And the way you paid homage to Nas too was so smoothly done. It just was really, I mean, that's just technique.
Had to.
The let's talk about Outsiders though. There's so much. I quoted too much. I'd be Michael Eric Dyson reading this shit here, because I literally wrote like 50 words here that you rhymed here. You know what I mean? But, you know, lines like fortune finds its way to the hungry in the midst of progress, don't get comfy. I mean,
it's different, honey.
These are mantras, though. You know what I mean? These are mantras. And, you know, you got, what is it with you guys? With Bub Rock with the mantras and shit? And,
yeah, Bub Rock is,
you know,
big
and then that,
shit,
I'm
man.
like, you know, if a kid has that bar. If a kid has that bar in their head, you're like, fortune finds its way to the hungry. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's a motivator. That's a mantra. Yeah. In the midst of progress, don't get comfy. These are mantras. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man.
I mean, this is great stuff here. You know what I mean? What was your mentality when you was writing this though? Because there's just a lot of life fuel that you put on that page.
Yeah, this is I'd say like this is one of my most passionate writings, and this is actually not even a recent writing. This is something that I had for a while, and it aged well with time. It just felt like the right time for it. Okay. You know, with the beat and everything, it felt time that people needed to hear that side of the story. And what I could say about that time when I wrote it was a lot of emotions, a lot of growing up to do, a lot of realizations, and they were striking down on that page. And that was it. I think at that time when I was writing that, I never felt so good at rapping. It started becoming like very easy for me in a way that it was almost, I felt like I was manipulating my own style. Like I knew how to manipulate my own style. I don't even feel like I'm fully consciously there now. I feel like it's something I go in and out of noticing. So it's like another time I felt like I kind of went through that and I felt it without giving it that much emphasis on Outsiders was Dark Prince Returns. Because I wrote Dark Prince Returns more recently, and it just came so naturally to me. It was just something I really felt, and
well,
I like that song a lot. It's
interesting you said that, because in Outsiders, to me, I see that like you galloping in the pocket. Yeah. Dark Prince Returns, though, you swerve a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? You swerve through it, though. And especially like the Nas interpolating is actually the swerves. That's like, hey, slow down and catch this one. And then you go into your shit. You know, it's really well done. You know what I mean? And I don't want to give too much about it, because I want you all to listen to it. You know what I mean? It's just really expert stuff. You know what I mean? And I had seen that, you know, on the Bandcamp, you had the next release. You had a release that was supposed to come in May.
Yes.
What's that about? What's coming? Because when I go on there now, though, I was like, it's not there anymore. You know what I mean? Like, I know I saw it.
Yeah, we had to put that on the little tight seal for now.
Okay.
It's still on the way. You know what I mean? The loose title we throwing around right now is Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
You could expect a lot of work from me this year. I'm working on a lot of things. You know, we just getting certain things in order. I got like another video that I shot. I actually shot a video for Dark Prince Returns. I'll say it here now, even though it didn't come out yet. But yeah, there's a video for Dark Prince Returns. But we're just shooting and like producing a lot of work. I want to have everything more signed and sealed before I just release one of them, before I got the other one ready. So I want to have like 3 albums already tucked away to go, and now I could just release them. So that's why we just taking our time with everything.
No, that's definitely peace. You know, with that said, plexdiamonds.bandcamp.com is where you go. Put them on your wish list, stream them forever, pay them. You know, not just the required, but what's going to get you. Put $1 million. $1 million is a good place to start with that. This is great work. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I've seen people charge $200 for their records though. So I'm cool with that with you, Plex. If you do that, you know what I mean? I'm okay with that. You know, if you put Starker and SDNAC prices on the shit, you know what I mean?
No, and shout out to them guys too, you know what I mean? Starker, one hell of a talent, you know what I mean? Shout out to him, you know what I mean? That's my guy right there. I was definitely building with him and SDNAC during the higher learning shoot. And me and SDNAC have been around each other a couple other times besides that, you know what I mean?
I'd love to work with you all.
You know what I mean? So like I love how all them guys build, you know what I mean? They really smart, very strong business minded, and you know what I mean, influential people that rightfully so, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the strengths of the movement is that y'all brothers really talk to each other, share with each other, and I think it's a comfort because everybody is unique.
Yeah.
Then they don't have issues about their creativity because you guys really have it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's amazing time in this hip hop, you know what I mean? And it's great work you put out, Plex, you know what I mean? And
I appreciate that.
I'm just honored that I could be the first one to, you know, get that first definitive build, because there'll be much more building, I hope, you know what I mean? And
definitely, man.
Interview builds. But Plex Diamonds, look them up. That's PLEX Diamonds. Look them up on the IG. Just write Plex Diamonds. Look them up on the Twitter, Plex Diamonds. Tell them how much you love the record. You know what I mean? And bother them about the First Comes Anarchy, though. You know what I mean? You bother them though, because that's what they deserve. These artists deserve to be bothered in a good way, not in a bad way. You know. But it was an honor having you, brother. Inspiring work. Some of the best I'm seeing, I hear today. It's such a small amount of work. You know, such a small body of work. And the new album is called, again, Justice is Gray. So get that one first. Stream that first. It's going to be one of the best EPs easily of this year. I don't give a shit what comes out. You know what I mean? And so until next time, there'll be a lot more stories to tell, writings to recite, and records to rewind and reminisce. For my guest, Plex Diamonds, I'm your host, Sunir Zala, a.k.a. Skilla Straight Low. And as always, the Power Ratio is a never respect fake broadcast. Peace.
Peace.
All right.